Mouthwashing is a masterpiece. I don't think that needs to be said. I played the game and I loved it. I've watched countless playthroughs and loved them. I've looked at fandom contributions and not really loved everything that's happening over there, but there's still some really awesome stuff. If you don't know what Mouthwashing is, it's a horror walking simulator which tells the story of a crew of an interplanetary freighter ship getting stranded in an asteroid field after an intentional crash, and everything falling apart as supplies dwindle, morale collapses, and everyone turns on each other. It's an insanely riveting game and I highly recommend you check it out. In fact, this video definitely won't make any sense if you haven't played the game, and obviously there will be many spoilers here. This is your spoiler warning. Even though the game is only about 2.5 hours long and came out only a couple months ago, there's still so much to discuss regarding the game's messages, symbolism, and character morality. I swear, I've never seen more undivided hatred towards a single fictional character than I've seen towards Jimmy, and honestly, deserved. While the music is amazingly atmospheric and the visual style is a great complement to the surreal horror, the writing is far and away the standout aspect of the game. Everything about it is dripping with replayability. So many lines of dialogue that catch your eye on a second playthrough, and so many little details to find which foreshadow future events. And the latter is what I want to talk about today. There's this one detail in Mouthwashing that I haven't seen many people discuss that I actually really liked. In the lounge room, you can find a board game in front of the couches. It looks similar to other 4-player games like Sorry, Ludo or Parcheesi, but this is actually a Swedish board game called Fyra med Nuff, though it does share some rules with those other games. What makes me so intrigued in this random background object is that it actually changes to parallel the plot of the game. First, I think we should explain the rules because those are actually important. Each player begins with 4 of their pieces in their respective home spaces in each corner of the board, and each turn they roll a die to move their pieces one at a time around the board in a clockwise fashion. Once a piece has made a full revolution around the board, it can enter its respective middle column to become saved. The first player to save all 4 of their pieces wins. A player may also take an extra turn if they roll a 6, and they may only begin moving a new piece from their home space if they roll a 1. But the most important rule to the story is that no 2 pieces can occupy the same space at a time. If player A's piece lands on the same space as player B's piece, then player B's piece gets sent back to their home space. Since it's a game about rolling dice, there's not too much agency in the gameplay, so the only real way players can interact with one another is by ruthlessly positioning their pieces to set their opponents back to the start. You'll see how this gameplay element mirrors how each crew member attempts to harm or kill one another aboard the tulpa. The fact that you can reset another player's progress purely by luck easily marks this game as a friendship breaker, because it causes a lot of unfounded anger and tension in the playgroup, which makes it a very, very bad choice of a game to give to an already mentally unstable crew. Now let's talk about that shifting board state. During certain scenes, the positions of pieces on the Fyra med Nuff board will change based on what is happening or what has happened in the story thus far. Before the crash, the board looks like this. From the colours of the pieces and based on the colours of the character's dialogue text, we can infer which player is controlling which pieces. Swansea is yellow, Daisuke is purple, Jimmy is green, and Anya is blue. When you inspect the game as Curly, he implies that he doesn't play the game with the rest of his crew, foreshadowing his post-crash injury where he's left completely immobile and unable to participate in the events of the story, forced to spectate helplessly as everything and everyone falls apart. You could also draw a link between Curly's white dialogue text and the white neutral spaces which make up the majority of the board. This could indicate that, as the captain of the tulpa, he's the one who holds everyone together. Or it could be symbolic of his personality. He's a doormat. He never actually enforces anyone's behaviour and willingly takes verbal abuse, especially from his friend Jimmy, and thus he metaphorically lets everyone step all over him. Curly also notes that Anya always gets heated when playing Fyra med Nuff because Daisuke has such good luck in the game. But looking at this current board state, we can see that Anya is actually winning by a wide margin. She already has 3 pieces active on the board, with 1 piece about to enter the middle column and another just around the corner. She's resourceful, determined, and quick to bounce back on her feet even when the chips are down. Just like how she keeps pushing to become a doctor despite how many times she's failed the exam. Jimmy is coming in second, with 1 piece already in the safety column and another exiting the home space. Jimmy is outwardly bold and direct. He moves his pieces aggressively, but he's very inwardly insecure about his current position in life. Despite managing to secure the first saved piece, he's still only coming a distant second place, just like how he perceives his career accomplishments and position in the crew to always be overshadowed by others such as Curly. Also note how his second piece is positioned right behind Anya's, threatening to move into her personal space unwanted, mirroring his plans to assault her. Meanwhile, Swansea is coming a very distant third, with one piece barely a quarter of the way around the board and another just coming out of the home space. Swansea is the self-proclaimed bruiser of the crew. He's big and slow, but his impact on the game will increasingly ramp up over time. Also notice how he's simultaneously managing two pieces on the board, similar to how he personally feels having to multitask between performing his regular ship maintenance duties, while also training Daisuke and making sure he stays out of trouble. His first piece is also right behind Daisuke's, watching him closely and pressuring him to keep moving forward. Finally, Daisuke is coming dead last, having moved a total of 2 spaces with a single piece. Good for him. He's easily the most relaxed member of the crew, so he's really not in it to win. He's also the most inexperienced crew member, so it makes sense why he would be metaphorically performing the worst out of everyone. Furthermore, he's internally struggling to find his place on the ship, as we learn that he never actually wanted this internship and was forced into it by his parents, so his lack of progress can be interpreted as lack of motivation. At this point in the story, we can already see some very important details about the characters and future story beats portrayed in this little side visual. The board stays like this until after Anya locks herself in the medical bay and overdoses on Curly's painkillers, months after the crash. It's a little hard to see with the orange hues, but for clarification, these 4 pieces are Swansea's, and these 4 pieces are Daisuke's. At this point, all of Anya's pieces are knocked over. She's dead, so she's out of the story and out of the game. Jimmy's piece stands right in the middle of the fallen pieces, with Daisuke trailing a few spaces behind. They were the ones who tried to stop Anya and ultimately failed to prevent her death, with Jimmy being the cause of it in the first place. Meanwhile, Swansea has advanced much further now, with 3 pieces active and one of them imminently approaching Jimmy and Daisuke's. This is the point where Swansea begins taking a much more active role in the story, trying to prevent Jimmy's irresponsible behaviour, but always turning up too late to make a difference. After Daisuke gets mortally wounded from crawling through the damaged vents, the board state changes once again. Now, all of Daisuke's pieces have also been knocked down, leaving just Jimmy and Swansea left standing. Swansea's frontmost piece has also managed to advance onto the same space as Jimmy's, a move that would be the killing blow for Jimmy, sending his piece back to the start. I think it's interesting that Daisuke's fallen piece is also in the same space as those 2 living members' pieces, mirroring Swansea's mercy killing of his apprentice while Jimmy watches on in horror. And it could also symbolize Jimmy's culpability in Daisuke's death, him having been the one to coerce Daisuke into entering the vent in the first place. Once Jimmy has managed to kill Swansea, the game is basically over. Jimmy's pieces are the only ones left standing. He's the only one left to play the game. Now all that's left to do is for Jimmy to play out his final turns. But he can't. I believe the best symbolism portrayed in this game is, well, the fact that the game doesn't actually end, because based on the board states we see in the game, we never see a player emerge victorious. No character wins by the end of Mouthwashing. The closest we see to anyone actually winning the game is Jimmy being the last one standing after all of the other players have literally died, but he hasn't won yet. That's because, well, he can't win. Remember, the goal of Fiamed Nuf is to get all of your pieces to safety, but how is Jimmy supposed to get a true victory to save all 4 of his pieces when 3 of them are already dead due to his own irresponsibility? So the only thing he can do is try his best to quote-unquote save the last piece he has left. His final act on the tulpa is to force Curly into a cryopod and then lodge a bullet into his own thick skull, sparing himself from the responsibility of his actions. Jimmy thinks he's won the game, but in truth he's only managed to quote-unquote save 1 crew member on this ship. He saved a single piece on his board, while he failed to account for Anya, Daisuke, and Swansea, the 3 other pieces doomed never to make it to the end. Jimmy has deluded himself into thinking that he has done something good, that he at least deserves some credit for saving 1 person from this disaster. But if 3 pieces are left behind, then there's no victory. But Jimmy doesn't care. From the first board state, we are shown that Jimmy saved a piece from the get-go. From the beginning, he's always looked out for Curly and Curly alone. Jimmy never had any intention to win. He just wanted to get Curly through to the end, no matter what. I love how this board game really betrays Jimmy's reprehensible and selfish nature. Not caring about the true victory of saving all 4 pieces, he only celebrates the single piece he manages to quote-unquote save for his own personal satisfaction. He gets the ending that he wants, so it doesn't matter who else lives or who else dies. Nobody wins the game. Nobody wins Mouthwashing. Thank you for making it to the end of a video of me ranting about a board game in a video game, and I'll see you in the next video.